Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Lorena and I'm glad that you're here. If this is your first time, thank you for watching. If you are a returning subscriber and viewer, welcome back. Today I wanted to take a second and go over the seed starting mix that I'm using this year. Seed starting mix, there's so many varieties, there's so many different recipes. There are just lots of different options that you can do with this. The biggest thing is to do what works for you. So if you are a simple minimalist and that works for you, go for it. If you have some things that you kind of want to work on and improve your seed starting mix, then do that too. If you want to make it by putting ingredients together like I'm going to do today, that's cool. If you want to go buy it from the store and use that and that works for you, then do that. I will say that I have evolved through this whole journey of gardening, and lots of different things have worked. Lots of different things have not worked. And I will say that there is now specific things that I am looking for when it comes to seed starting. Not only seed starting within trays and flats, which is an option, but I'm also going to be doing soil blocking this year. I'm going to be doing a mix of both, so flats and soil blocks, depending on what it is. So there are specific components or characteristics that I'm looking for in my seed starting mix, especially for soil blocking. So last year I tried soil blocking and it dried out super fast and it got rock solid. So it made it really difficult for the seeds to germinate because the dirt was just really, really hard. So those are specific things that I'm looking for. If your climate does well with whatever you've got going on, then dismiss what I'm talking about today and use that. If you are not specific on those things, then that works for you. Then just keep going with what you're doing. But I am looking for those specific things because that was very difficult, especially in North Carolina here. I've gardened in Arizona, which is completely dry. And then I gardened in Ohio, which is cold and humid. And wet, like very wet. And now here we kind of have this like subtropical weather going on. Kind of the mix of Arizona and Ohio, which is why we're here. But I have kind of those issues within gardening that I'm facing. So that's what I'm trying to troubleshoot. I'll let you know. I'll kind of post back here in the comments like an update as the season progresses. But I did get this recipe from the Seasonal Homestead, Becky from the Seasonal Homestead. I really like her methods and I feel like she's given advice on there that I've taken and it has not steered me wrong. So given that, I went ahead and printed off her recipe. I will show you a snapshot of that, but you can go to theseasonalhomestead.com on her site and it's listed there. I will also have it listed down in the description if you want to take a peek at that. So I'll just kind of take some clips here and there, show you kind of the process for doing it, and that'll be it. Okay, so what I have here is my hubby made this soil sifter. So it's a 1/4 inch hardware cloth, which is kind of like chicken wire, but a little bit smaller. And then he just put this framing around it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the soil from the bag, because sometimes there's clumps within it, you wanna sift it. So I'm gonna take it from here, put it down on here, and then I'm kind of gonna shake it around to get any of the big chunks out, and then I can use that as mulch.
I pulled up top down down in the two-seater. She hopped in, drunk smile, said it's good to see you. What you thinking about skipping downtown tonight?
Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of give it a shake. Okay, and you can kind of break up these clumps here. Okay. Just gonna make sure these aren't just big clumps. If it's soil that's usable, then I wanna make sure I get all that. But see, like these sticks here didn't quite break down like I want. And if you put that within your seed starting mix, that can completely prevent that seed from germinating because it's going to block it from popping up. So we don't want that. We want to go ahead and take those out. So I'll leave them in here and then I'll start collecting them, and then we'll reuse that within the garden so nothing goes to waste. Okay, so as you can see here, I have the big clumps. So these big sticks and mulch pieces, I'm going to go ahead and stick in the box there as I kind of finish out this first sifting bunch that I did. So, and then I'm just going to keep continuing. So it just depends on how much you need. You can do smaller batches, and then that way you're not making more than what you need, or you can just make larger batches of it, and then throughout the season you can pull from it. Okay, so we have some sifted here. Per the recipe that Seasonal Homestead wrote out, it's a 5-gallon bucket of soil. So we're gonna go ahead and transfer what we have here into the bucket and then see how much we need after that. Okay, so I sifted a little bit more. If you're local to me, I got this from Lowe's. I know some people are not fans of buying the stuff in plastics and stuff like that. Completely up to your discretion. I feel safe with it. It's OMRI certified or registered, listed, which is kind of the standards that you want to go by when it comes to organic gardening. This 1.5, hi CMB. This 1.5 cubic foot bag, I have used well over half of it with just a little bit left. We're gonna see if that fills us up to the 5-gallon mark. I did notice there are some bigger chunks within this mix. If you can find a smaller opening mesh, smaller than 1/4 inch, I would do that. I know that they make some soil sifters that you can buy online as well. We just had this on hand. I'm a big fan of using what you got where you can, especially with all the costs involved within homesteading. So we're gonna get this mixed in here or put in the bucket and kind of see where we land.
Taylor, what the heck? What are you doing? They want to be in a video? This is got to fill us up. It might be even more. Are you doubling it?
Okay, so clearly that gets us more than the 5-gallon mark. Because I am planning on doing seed starting throughout the entire spring, summer, and even fall season, I'm gonna fill up another 5-gallon bucket while I'm out here, just so that it's already done for me. I'm a big fan of doing the extra now to save me time later. So we're gonna go ahead and fill up another bucket.
Okay, wait.
So as you can see here, these bigger pieces, that's why I mentioned if you can find a smaller mesh. It's not a big deal if you don't. I'm just going through and kind of picking out some of the big chunks that could get in the way of the soil or the seed popping up through the soil. The other thing you can do is just make sure that when you plant your seed, there's nothing that is directly above that seed that would hinder it, or the roots that want to go down into the soil. So not a big deal. We can just pick them out.
They probably won't be in the channel.
Okay, so what I'm doing here is I added some water just to kind of get level with the cocoa coir, whatever, bricks here. I added 3 because on the listing for it, and I can post it here, it says that it makes like 13 point something gallons. So I just added 3 because the recipe calls for about 5 gallons. So, and it actually calls for peat moss. Instead of peat moss, because I'm not really a fan of peat. Pete, who's Pete? Squirrel. So I use this instead. The only thing is that you do have to add the water, and because it comes in the bricks, and then just kind of wait for it to kind of expand and soak up that water. So I'm just kind of breaking off what's kind of absorbed already and then sticking it back in that water to continue absorbing, and then it'll kind of just all be like that. Okay, so correction, the recipe says 10 gallons. So I am gonna add these. I'll have just a little bit more of the peat in the recipe. That's okay. I do not mind a little bit more of the cocoa coir in there. So I'm just gonna set these in here to soak up the water. And then while that's doing that, I can go inside the shed here and get the tarp laid out and get some of the other ingredients incorporated into that potting garden soil mix. Okay, so while the cocoa coir absorbs the water out there in the wheelbarrow, I'm gonna take this tarp here. I did buy this specifically for this because we didn't have one that was the size I needed to lay out. You can use boxes or whatever else that you have to lay this out and incorporate it all together. This was like $15. It's the 12 mil over at Harbor Freight. That's local to me, but find your local hardware store. I'm sure they have a size that will work for you. I would probably go 5x7 or just a bit bigger. I think this one's what, an 8x10? Did we get? 8x6. 8x6. So we're gonna lay this out here and then we're gonna get the other ingredients onto it. Okay, so we have it laid out. If you have two people and not the second person recording, then grab that person to help you kind of spread this out. I have the 5 gallon of the sifted soil that we did. So I'm just gonna lay that on here, and you don't have to do it inside. You can do it outside if you want. This shed is obviously dirty and dusty, so I have no problem doing it in here. So we have that, and that is 5 gallons of the sifted soil. Okay, so the next step is we are going to do this Omri listed perlite. It says to do 5 gallons. This is about 5 gallons if I were to pour this in that bucket. So I'm going to add this to our soil here on the ground, and then we're going to add the bone meal and the blood meal. Okay, and then looking at it, it says 24 quarts, so it has a little bit more than what we need. So I'm just going to kind of add the majority of it and kind of hold some back. Okay, now that looks like a ton. So, but once we get that cocoa coir on here, on here, okay. So once we get that incorporated with the cocoa coir, it will not look like so much. Okay, so I have this bone meal here that I got from the local hardware store. It says a half a cup. So that's about a half a cup. I'm not gonna overthink it. And then this one here is the blood meal. So I'm gonna take about a half a cup there. That will get incorporated. Now, you can, if you make compost on your homestead, we have compost bins. We haven't been turning them over the winter, and we do have a chicken in that compost bin. So if you compost and you toss your chickens in there after you put them in freezer camp, or if you have, a predator get one, you can stick your feathers in there. That makes feather meal. You can stick your bones, the whole chicken, for bone meal, blood meal, the whole thing. So if you do that, you don't need to add these. I just don't have any compost ready at this moment. So using something that is purchased at the store is necessary for this part of the season. Okay, so this here is pelletized lime. The recipe calls for pulverized lime. So pulverized is going to be a lot thinner, like almost like the bone meal and the blood meal that we added. This here is a little bit bigger. I don't know if you can get in here. You can see that it's a little bit bigger. It'll be fine, especially as it gets kind of the moisture incorporated. And this says to add a half a cup also. So I'm just kind of going through and adding what I would estimate to be about a half a cup. So that is supposed to be the pulverized lime, but this is pelletized lime. Okay, so the last thing that we're gonna add, that you would need to add if you can source it and locally and at a decent price, is the garden sand. I couldn't find it at a good price. It was really expensive to buy online. The local hardware store didn't have it, or garden centers. So I'm gonna go ahead and go without that. I think that I'll be okay. I can kind of make notes of what I observe, if anything. So we're gonna go ahead and get this kind of mixed up and get the cocoa coir incorporated. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of mix in the bone meal and blood meal before I add that cocoa coir. And the perlite here actually helps to keep moisture in and it not get too mucky, because sometimes you can have like that algae or that mossy stuff that grows on top, and this helps with that. So it's looking beautiful even without that cocoa coir. It looks great. And some people don't use that at all, and that's okay. There's a million different ways that you can do this. There's no one size fits all. It's kind of what your preference is as a gardener and grower. So yeah, so we're just gonna get this mixed in and then we'll add that cocoa coir. Slight interruption.
The chickens are here.
They're curious. They've never seen that. Okay, so since we added the 3 other cocoa coir bricks, we are adding a little bit more water to absorb. Okay, so note to all of y'all, put the cocoa coir in the water at the very beginning because it is taking quite a while. What I'm kind of doing to help it along is breaking it up into these chunks here as best you can. It's harder in some spots than others. Like that is like not even gonna happen. Oh my goodness. Like that. So if you can do that, that's going to help it along. Otherwise, you can just stick it in there and wait for it. But definitely do it at the beginning of the process. And hopefully by that time, it would be ready for you. We have the cocoa coir pretty much well incorporated. There's a few here and there of the little clumps, like this one here. But that will incorporate through the mix. So you can kind of break it up if you want, or you can just leave the little ones and they'll continue to incorporate. Because this, the 6 bricks made 13 gallons of this, I'm gonna take some of this and save it for the next batch that I do. A little more wouldn't hurt, but why use it if I don't need to? And it would help me to make another batch. So I think that's about good for the extra 3 gallons. That leaves us about 10 gallons of the cocoa coir. Now, one thing that I would recommend, if you care about how peat moss is harvested, you can research that on your own. If you care about that, then I would use cocoa coir. It is very time consuming to get this all incorporated. If you don't care so much about that, then I would definitely go with the peat moss. I've bought in peat before. I use it for my trees when I plant them, but the cocoa coir is more environmentally friendly, but it takes a lot more time to incorporate. So you kind of have to weigh what's gonna work for you, how much time do you have. The cost is about the same, so you gotta kind of weigh that out for yourself. So we're gonna go ahead and get this incorporated into our mix and get it all mixed up. So what I'm gonna do is just incorporate this in here. I'm gonna scoop it out, get it in there. You can kind of feel for any bigger lumps. Get it mixed in. You know what would be probably smarter? You dumped it. I think. Smarter, not harder, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Just get in there with your hands. All together. So this is going to be moisture locking, but not too much moisture, because that perlite and that peat helps, or the cocoa coir helps to hold in the moisture so they don't dry out so much, because that was one of the issues that I had. And like I said, you can use this for soil blocking, but you can also use it for regular trays. So it can be used definitely for both. It's not just soil blocking and not just trays. Okay.
That rooster's like, that rooster's stalking us over there.
Is he?
Little chickie rooster.
Just get it well incorporated. And like I said, if you have any pieces of that cocoa coir still clumped up, it's still pretty moist. So it will absorb that moisture and kind of break up smaller. So don't worry about it. I don't want to use my tools too much on this tarp. I don't want to rip it, but if you need gloves, get gloves. I'm usually not one of those glove gardeners. That's something. Put in the description if you're a glove gardener, or in the comments if you're a glove gardener or no glove gardener. Clearly, you can tell what I am. Unless there's thorns or I'm getting an area where there could be black widows, I usually do not wear gloves. Okay, so that's it for the seed starting mix that we're going to use for this season. It's looking really, really good. So this is the end product. Some of that cocoa coir. All right, so now what we're gonna do, I have this little tote here that has a lid that we're gonna store it in until I'm ready to use it. We'll just pile it in here. Okay, so that concludes today's video on how to create your own seed starting mix. I hope that you found this valuable. I'll leave the recipe and the seasonal homesteads link in the description. Please let me know by hitting that like button and clicking the subscribe that you enjoyed this video. So we'll catch you on the next one.
Let me show you my countryside through these old headlights.